But we're going to do something that sort of flies in the face of everything we normally do. This is a pretty expensive, extravagant dish, and you know normally we're all about being pretty economical and quick and easy. But it's the holidays, and it's time to do something a little fancy. We're going to do a tenderloin Tournedoes, which are thin little steaks, seared, topped with foie gras and a red wine reduction sauce. So the longest part of this is getting the sauce ready. So we're going to start that first. We're going to use an entire bottle of red wine and 4 cups of very concentrated beef stock. I've made this myself. You can buy your own. The only thing I would say is, if you get it in the market, get the low sodium variety and be very, very careful about the salt, because you're going to be reducing what is essentially about 2 quarts of liquid down to maybe half a cup or a cup. It's going to get very, very concentrated. It'll be the consistency of a thick syrup. And if there's salt in the stock already, it's going to be very, very salty and very unpleasant to eat. So we're going to start with the sauce right now, and then we'll move on to everything else. While the pan is heating, we're going to bash up some shallots and garlic for the sauce. I've saved a small amount of the fat from the beef stock. It's a big, hard lump, and it's just about the same amount as you would use butter or olive oil in any other kind of sautéing. We're going to sauté the shallot and garlic in the beef fat. Then we'll add the wine, then we'll add the stock, and we're going to let it reduce for a good half hour. Now, as you know, the easiest way is simply to use the Cuisinart. All you have to do, turn it on first, and then add the shallots and the garlic through the top, and when they're the perfect size, they will stick to the sides. There, perfect. So over to the stove we go. Once the fat is melted, in go the shallots and garlic. Once you can start to smell them and they've got some color coming onto them, you can add the wine. Once the wine's boiling vigorously, let it go for a couple of minutes, and then you can add the stock. Once it comes to a rapid boil, we're going to let it go for about a half an hour. And as it gets close, we're going to proceed with the rest of the dish. You don't really need to do anything at this point except keep an eye on the sauce, because once it gets close to being finished, it goes from perfect to charcoal in about 5 seconds. So right now you don't have to worry about it, but when it comes close to the half-hour mark, keep an eye on it. Check it every few minutes in between now and then anyway. So while the sauce is working, we're going to prep the rest of our stuff. We've got this lovely piece of tenderloin here that's, in the market they'll call it a peeled butt, which is not a very attractive name for it. It's the head end of the tenderloin. It's better for steaks than the middle part. And you saw how we trimmed up the tenderloin in our other video. So right now I'm going to cut this into about maybe 8 pieces and flatten them out a little bit so they'll sear very, very quickly. Tenderloin doesn't have a lot of fat inside. You want to do it very quickly. Serve it rare to medium rare. On top of it, we're going to put some seared foie gras and our beautiful sauce. These pieces are probably a little more than a ½ inch thick, and when we're done with them, they'll be a little thinner than that because we're going to flatten them, pound them out just a little bit. There. And then when they're sliced, all you have to do is pound them with your hand and flatten them out just a little bit. You don't need a mallet, you don't need a meat pounder, because they're very soft and very tender all by themselves. Now we're going to do our foie. We have a pitcher of warm water here and a long slicing knife. Keeping the knife warm and moist will help it slice the foie very evenly without tearing it to shreds. This piece of foie gras cost me about $100. It's going to serve about 16 people, so on a per person basis it's not that expensive, but it's not something you want to eat the whole thing of right away every day. And you'll see, because there's 2 distinct lobes here, it does tend to come apart a little bit. It's not really a big deal because you're going to reconstruct it as you sear it anyway. Well, I've managed to come up with about 6 slices here, and 4 of them are really pretty and 2 aren't that great. But again, it doesn't really matter. Once we saute these up, put them on top of the Tournedoes, they'll be just fine. I don't think anyone will complain. The sauce is getting close, but it's not there yet. One of the ways you can tell is the foaminess has disappeared and the bubbles are getting small. As it gets really thick, the bubbles will actually start getting bigger. I'd say it's about 5 more minutes to go. It's getting closer, but it's not there yet. We want a thick syrup. This is a thin syrup right now. All right, here's the point where you really need to start keeping an eye on this stuff. I'd say it's a minute or 2 out, but it's at this point you want to keep it stirring, because literally you can go from being perfect to being a blackened charcoal crust on your pan in a matter of seconds. Trust me, I've had this happen. It's very, very close. It's almost done. We're going to taste it. See how it is. It's unbelievably intense. Tastes of both the wine and the stock, shallots, garlic. You could add a little salt to this, so I'm going to add just a pinch of my seasoned salt mix. Maybe a little pepper too. Recipes for these, as always, are on the web. If you don't feel like making it yourself, you can always order some. Just a pinch of each. Oh yeah, that's the right texture. Look how thick that is. I always say if you can make a trail on the back of a spoon. Okay? Okay. This is ready. It'll tighten up as it sits a little bit. So we're going to move it off to the side and start heating our pan to do our Tournedoes. That goes off. I'm going to use a large double roasting pan, just to save a little bit of time. Normally I would use my griddle. Okay, while our roasting pan is heating up, you notice I put the steaks out on a tray so I can get to the front surface of all of them at the same time. I've done the same with the foie. So we're going to season them up before we put them in the pan. Once again, dusting of salt, my special seasoned salt blend. You could use plain salt, but this tastes better. And a light dusting of pepper. Not much. Remember, we tell you to dust from up here because this way the salt dissipates and spreads out a little more evenly as it falls. Well, it's only been about a minute per side, but I'm going to take them off because I don't want to take any chance that I'm going to overcook these. They're going to rest anyway for a few minutes, and they'll continue to cook as they rest. And the foie only needs about 30 seconds per side. I think we're good to go. Beautiful little Tournedos here. Perfectly rare inside. It's only gone for about a minute or so. A little more than a minute per side. Beautiful slice of foie on the top. You could strain the sauce, but I never do because I like the shallots and garlic. So just a little bit of sauce on the top. You could get all fancy and put it on the plate first. I don't ever like to do that, but that's your choice. So there you have it. Tenderloin Tournedoes with foie gras and a red wine reduction.